Hey folks, happy Wednesday. We continue our FUMCCV devotional following our July prayer calendar today, 1 Thessalonians chapter 3. If you haven't read that, go read it. We are press pause right now, go read it. We're in preparation for a sermon this coming Sunday that finishes up our Ripple Effect sermon series and that with this book of Thessalonians. So if you've read it, then what you see is that there's quite a bit of conversation about persecution. So Paul is in prison writing the letter, and he's concerned. So he's being persecuted. He's concerned about the Thessalonians and whether they're being persecuted and holding on to their faith. And so he says, I held out as long as I could, and then I suffered by sending Timothy to you. So, and Timothy was kind of serving Paul in prison. Remember, in those days in prison, I mean, you need food, clothing, all that. It's got to come from the outside. It's got to come from your loved ones, your community who's bringing you those kinds of supplies. So he says, I suffered on your behalf so I could send Timothy to you. So he sends Timothy to check on the Thessalonians and to make sure that they see how they're doing amidst the persecution. And what he discovers is that they are standing firm in their faith. In the Roman world, persecution of Christians was significant. And it was significant in part because of the kind of Roman caste system that people were born into. You were born into a station in life. If you were an owner, you were born into an owner, you were always going to be an owner. If you're a government official, you were born into that family, you were always going to be a government official. If you're a slave, you were always going to be a slave. But then Christians begin to say things like there is no slave or free, Jew or Greek, male or female, all are one in Christ Jesus. And that statement is made multiple different times by Paul himself. And so the Christian way of life begins to threaten the Roman way of life, the Christian way of life of everyone coming together and sharing everything and seeing everyone as equal. Well, if that's the case, then and that prevails in a village, for example, then this whole idea that you are born into the station that you are born into and you can't rise out of that, and you should listen undeniably to the people in the station above you and you should hold your place, well, that whole way of life is threatened. And so for that reason, Romans begin to persecute Christians. And the persecution is strong, and their hope is that they could torture Christians to the point of Christians giving up their faith. Unimaginable. There's not much persecution. There is some. We hear stories about it in different parts of the world. Fortunately, most of us watching this will never have to go through some kind of persecution because of our faith. I mean, sure, there might be someone at work or a neighbor or something who doesn't like Christianity and so therefore doesn't like you. But in terms of being tortured until we give up our faith, we're not going to have to face that. But I wonder, what is it that you face? What is it that you face that is drawing your attention away from God? See, that's what the persecutors were trying to do. They're trying to draw those people's attention away from God. So for us, it's not persecutor. What is it, though, that perhaps draws your attention away from God? And let's work on that. Let's work on that together. Let's try to stand firm in the face of that draws our attention away from God, and to keep our eyes tuned and our hearts tuned into God. So God bless. Have a great day.